we are in where you can get everything that you need. We have hair, we have eyelashes, we have everything that you need to slay. Hello everybody, ni hao. Welcome back to another episode of Lan Lan Lives in China. Today we're going somewhere very special, what I like to call the Black Beauty Mecca of the world. When I say that I'm in the Black Beauty Mecca of the world, a lot of you might think that I'm in somewhere like Atlanta, my city, LA, or maybe even New York, but no, I'm actually in Guangzhou, China, in the southern part of China. A lot of people don't know about this beauty market because it's really far away from where the products actually end up. But if you're here on any random day, you'll see hundreds of Black female merchants from around the world coming to source products for their very own beauty brands. These women work very closely with the shops that are set up here as kind of flagships for factories all around China that are producing beauty products aimed at targeting Black women. Now, I actually discovered this place because I've lived in China for a while now, and when I got here I realized that I couldn't find the beauty products that I love in regular stores. So I kind of had an inkling that a lot of the stuff and beauty products that I was buying were from China, so I did some research online and I stumbled upon this place, and when I came to visit, my mind was blown. So I want to show this to you guys today. Those of you who come to my YouTube for information about tech are probably wondering what this whole thing has to do with tech. Well, this isn't just an episode about beauty, it's actually an episode about tech as well, because what is not readily apparent about this place on the surface is that the work here involves an intense network of technology, logistics, and coordination aimed at getting products to people across the continent. Guangzhou's Beauty Exchange Center is located in Guangzhou, China. Guangzhou is a port city that sits on China's Pearl River Delta. It's been an epicenter of trade since the 1700s. Back then, Guangzhou was actually referred to as Canton and was one of the few ports that merchants trading with China could access. In 1957, China's government established the Canton Fair to serve as a yearly trade show to showcase products made in China to the rest of the world. Because of this, Guangzhou is a city that has been long accustomed to making deals and moving product. Although the Beauty Exchange Center has everything necessary for a beauty lover's need, the most popular product by far is human hair extensions. China's human hair extension manufacturing market is one of the most robust in the world. In 2018, the industry was valued at more than $2 billion, and according to Xinhua, or New China as it's referred to in English, in 2017, wigs and extensions from China made up around 35% of the total industry on the African continent. Growing relationships between China and African nations are furthering the industry through affordable flights from Guangzhou, the city where the Beauty Exchange Center is located, to major cities in Africa. There are a number of human hair extension manufacturers that have been in the business for years. But as knowledge of the market's profitability becomes more widespread, more Chinese manufacturers are getting in on the action. I see posts like this one circulating online every day, and advice forums are also cropping up on the Chinese internet about starting your own hair extension business. To get an idea of how getting started in the hair manufacturing business is actually done, I pulled a few examples from some personal contacts that I have started small hair businesses in a small Chinese city. Step one in the process is acquiring the hair. Although many manufacturers get hair from Pakistan and India, this vendor told me that he sources his hair from China, which I can believe. Although China is a relatively developed country, there are still poor areas where people are willing to sell their hair. Here's a photo from a website explaining how to sell your hair if you are in China and you want to sell it off to a wig vendor. This post includes instructions on cutting and caring for your hair if you hope to sell it. Okay, so I am a lover of hair extensions. I will rock 26 inches of kinky straight without any questions. But as a weave lover, I know we love to hear stuff like Brazilian hair and Cambodian hair and even Mongolian hair. As a side note, Mongolia is a country that is north of China that is made up of nomadic people. It is beautiful, and y'all should definitely visit. But it is certainly not where your hair is coming from. Truth is, regulations on shipping goods from Brazil to China don't really allow for shipping human hair. And the cost of shipping human hair from Brazil would be way too expensive to sell it on a mass scale. Usually, if your hair is not straight virgin hair, it is just Chinese hair or Indian hair processed at different levels to give it the desired texture. This is not to say that it is not right to pay for better qualities of hair, but the weird race science behind hair types and textures is a bit of BS. In rant. The next stop is manufacturing and cleaning. After getting the hair, the manufacturer will then wash and weave the hair. This is actually a pretty low-tech process, and I was surprised to hear that. The hair is basically wefted to a band that can be sewn into the hair. The manufacturer in question just bought a few machines and set up a little shop with a few people in his village. People can laugh at this all they want or say that it is unfair, but this man is making a lot of money and bringing up his whole family in the process. After the hair is put on the weft, the manufacturer will process the hair to the desired texture. As you can see here, he is making curly hair. These people are curling hair by hand, which is wild. I even saw pictures of people ironing out hair, which is another interesting thing. When people manufactured hair, I always imagined that they were sitting in factories running back and forth, that they were like curly machines where they were curling the hair. No, people are literally doing this work by hand, which in a way actually makes me appreciate my 26 inches of kinky straight even more. Now that you have an idea of how a small vendor manufactures hair, let's get an idea of how this market works when the hair is actually being sold at the Guangzhou Beauty Exchange Center. To do this, I spoke with a worker at Mama Love Hair Products Company in the basement of the Guangzhou Beauty Exchange Center. 你为什么进入这样的工作？好的，为什么喜欢？
就想要跟你们就外国人去交流。
啊，好的。那你自己觉得哪一种假发是最好看的？
在我看来，我就说我们店的都是好看的，
对，
就是一般就说那些他们都是带这一些，带这一些，这一些，还有其他的，或者是英文，像这种，像这个黑色的多一点。
啊。大部分的时候是什么样的人来到这里？来自什么国家的人要来到你这里？
基本上就是非洲那边的，就赞比亚、肯尼亚、Nigeria， 还有那个，反正就是非洲这附近的国家吧。
那你觉得假发在非洲好卖吗？好卖，挺好的。
不止非洲嘛，还有法国那些也有。法国他们戴的偏向类，这个还浅一点。
还浅一点。是法国的黑人还是法国的
黑？都是从人头发头上面剪下来的。
都是从人
啊，都是人
的，都是真发。
对，然后就我们去工厂去染色的。
那这发是来自中国还是都有？哇塞！ So many things that she said were surprising to me and new to me. She is so right that Black women are the main customers at many of these vendors in the exchange center. But they are not just purchasing hair as passive consumers, they are getting in on the business for themselves and making millions. When I asked a woman from the continent who sells hair in her home country whether investing in a human hair extension business would be profitable or not, she replied, "You will make money," and told me that she had already set up her own business back home and frequently offered advice for friends looking to get in the business. It seems that she is right. I've talked to a ton of Black beauty business owners and they have said they've made money buying hair and selling it on the market. It's even cooler because a number of Chinese vendors have set up stores selling weave throughout different African countries, but they have not been as successful as some of these Black female merchants who are doing it on their own. A lot of women on the continent, Black women, seem to think that the hair that is sold by the Chinese vendors in Africa is cheap and they prefer to buy from Black women who they believe sell hair at a higher quality and know the business better. This works perfectly and creates a mutually beneficial relationship between human hair extension manufacturers and Black merchants that all comes together in the Guangzhou Beauty Exchange Center. I am from Atlanta, and one big thing that we have in Atlanta is a beauty supply store. And a beauty supply store is basically where Black women go to get all of their hair and beauty products, even some of their like moisturizers and stuff. It's a huge business in Atlanta. And one thing that Black women have complained about in the past is that these beauty supply stores are not owned by Black women. They're almost always owned by Korean and Chinese people. Now, the beef isn't that Chinese and Korean people own them specifically. It's that they basically have cornered in on the market in some places places. And what Black women have complained about in the past is that they want to get in on a piece of the market. Chinese and Korean businesses are able to get beauty supply products at cheaper prices because they work closely with relatives back home. So when Black women would try to get in on the industry, they would not be able to compete with them in terms of price. But the Guangzhou Beauty Exchange Center is actually doing the job of connecting people that use the products to the products themselves and allowing them to get into their own business and make money on their own. And I think that that is a beautiful thing. I love seeing these Black beauty businesses come up because it's really changing the game with concern to Black beauty and the Black beauty industry. It is amazing to me that Black women are being reconnected with products that women like Madam C.J. Walker have worked tirelessly to develop in the past. It's great that we're being connected with the things that we hold very close to our heart. And seeing this at the Guangzhou Beauty Exchange Center really put me in like a super hopeful and super vibrant mood. At this point, anyone who can get a visa to China can come and start doing business here. What matters most to manufacturers right now is money. I actually spoke with a number of manufacturers throughout the market, and they indicated that they enjoyed the opportunity to expand their business through connecting with Black merchants in Africa. A number of them actually have long-standing relationships with women from African countries, and they work with these women closely to innovate the market. While it is true that there are some bad vendors out there, the vast majority of vendors are trying to do good business and establish relationships that they can connect with in the future to do even more business. Even though I think this industry is really interesting and really innovative, many people think that the price that women are selling these goods at versus the price that they are buying them at from vendors in China is a little bit off and unfair. But I see it like this. Hair extensions are relatively non-perishable, and the price of it on the market is relatively stable. The buyer, which is these women, bear the cost of time investment as well as financial investment, and they thus sell it back to you with the interest and the risk that they accrued in purchasing the hair attached to it. It is business family, and just like some people invest in stocks, some people invest in weaves. So we've seen how human hair extensions are purchased and how they are made. And now you might be wondering how they get to homes around the world. This is one of the most interesting aspects of this trade, and I like to call it the low-tech, high-coordination innovation station. That's something that I made up, so if you find yourself using it, please quote me, please at me on Twitter. Anyway, importing goods can be expensive, especially through companies like DHL. And once goods are imported, you also have to pay taxes, which can add up. But the area surrounding Guangzhou Beauty City, along with the intelligent merchants from countries in Africa, have kind of worked together to solve this price and taxation problem. Some people simply hand carry items in suitcases and make the case that the goods are for personal use when they arrive in their home countries. Other people with large orders in the hundreds of thousands work with freight forwarding companies. These freight forwarding companies are skilled at getting products to different countries in Africa from Guangzhou. Many of them have connections with people on both sides of the import-export process, and they also work to make the cost of shipping goods cheaper by packaging different people's goods together and allowing them to make weight and share the burden of the cost of shipping. They also help merchants work out taxes and getting goods cleared through customs. Okay, so many of you might be asking, why don't they just use the internet? Why don't people just order stuff on Alibaba or AliExpress? A lot of us know about these online hair sellers and beauty sellers on Alibaba, but I talked to some of the vendors at the beauty market and asked them their thoughts on these platforms and whether they had stores on these platforms. The general consensus seemed to be that Alibaba was good to make money but could take a lot of time. Some said that the products sold on Alibaba and cheap. One vendor even said that they felt the real money was actually in wholesale, which is what most of the vendors at this center do. So at the end of the day, people still prefer to work with people, and people love to sell in volume because that's where the real margins are at. Wholesale is everything. Okay, so there you have it. Guangzhou's beauty market, a place where beauty dreams come true. But seriously, China's Beauty Exchange Center is more than just a place to try to get your beauty fix. It is an innovative epicenter of trade and commerce. You know, in China, we often talk about these high-level exchanges between governments in China and countries in Africa. But here at the Guangzhou Beauty Exchange Center, people from China and people from countries in Africa are winning together, and they're doing it on their own. It didn't happen at a conference, and it didn't happen at a meeting with officials. It's happening with people and by the best and brightest of China and Africa. I always feel at home in the beauty center because it represents the future that I hope to see. Chinese and African people winning together, building a better future. As a final tidbit, I'd like to offer some advice for people trying to get products from China. One, China has a reputation for making cheap goods, which might turn people off to this video. You know, a lot of people talk about cheap Chinese goods, but don't really understand what this is or what it looks like. Here's a little rundown. China is able to manufacture cheap goods not just because they use inferior products, but because the cost of labor is cheaper here than in the West. Most of your favorite expensive high-quality goods are made in China. In fact, most Chinese manufacturers make different qualities of goods based on what manufacturers request. So if you are buying cheap products from someone who is selling cheap goods, it is not just because they got them from China, it is because they requested a lower quality classification of goods. You can kind of see this in action at the Beauty Exchange Center. When you speak to different vendors and talk to them about the countries you want to send your goods to, they are often really open with you about the quality of goods and which market they are suitable for. It may just be because I speak with them in Chinese, but most of the vendors that I've worked with have been honest with me. 2, it is essential that you speak Chinese or have a Chinese speaker that you trust with you when you go to the Guangzhou Beauty Exchange Center, and I really mean it. Most of these merchants speak pretty good English, but speaking Chinese really breaks the ice. If you don't speak Chinese yourself, work with somebody who does. Okay, y'all, subscribe if you like this video and if you learned something. I will be coming out with more content about China and especially content related to China-Africa tech and China-Africa trade in the coming weeks. Thank you all for watching. Bye-bye. They should be paying me for this. I just thought about that. Look, wait.